Major Olivia Wright walked along the curved hallway of Sanctuary Station. Her boots made soft sounds on the polished floor. She nodded at two nurses who passed by. They wore the white and blue uniforms of Earth's medical corps. Olivia wore the black and silver uniform of station security. The gun at her hip felt heavy today. She stopped at a large window and looked out at Europa below. The icy moon of Jupiter shined like a pearl against the darkness of space. Far away, Jupiter's great. Red spots swirled like an angry eye. This view usually calmed her, but not today. Today she would face the prisoners again. Olivia checked her tablet. All systems normal, all prisoners secure. The daily report showed nothing unusual, but she never trusted the computers completely. That's why she walked the station every morning. She wanted to see things with her own eyes. "Major Wright, the ambassador's shuttle is 30 minutes out," said a voice in her earpiece. "Thank you, Lieutenant Daniels. I'll be at Docking Bay 3. To meet her, Olivia replied. She took one last look at Europa and continued her walk. The hallway curved toward the medical wing. Here, the station was bright and clean. Doctors and researchers moved with purpose. Some nodded to Olivia, but most were too busy to notice her. They were saving lives across the galaxy with their work. Doctor. Alan Murphy waited for her outside his office. He was a tall man with kind eyes and gray hair at his temples. His hands were always clean and smooth, surgeon's hands. "Good morning, Major," he said. "Ready for our special guest?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Olivia said. "The ambassador hasn't visited in 3 years. Why now?" Murphy shrugged. "Politics. The peace is still new. Some factions want to release the prisoners as a show of good faith." "Release them?" Olivia felt her face grow hot. "These aren't political. Prisoners? They're monsters? I know that." "You know that. But the ambassador represents people who didn't see what these creatures did," Murphy said softly. They walked together toward the secure elevator that would take them down to the detention level. Olivia placed her palm on the scanner. The door opened with a soft hiss. "How's your research going?" Olivia asked as they descended. "We've made progress on the Centaurian plague. The enzyme we isolated from Subject 12 might be the key to a vaccine," Murphy said. His eyes lit up when he talked about his work. "We could save millions of lives." "And Subject 12 killed how many?" Olivia asked. 200,000 on the Ganymede colony," Murphy said quietly. "I haven't forgotten." The elevator stopped. Another security check. "Retinal scan this time?" The second door opened to reveal the detention level. Unlike the medical wing above, this area was dim and cold. The walls were thick. The air smelled different, filtered more heavily, as if evil could travel through the air itself. 50 cryopods lined the walls. Each one held a war criminal. Some looked human. Many did not. All had committed acts so terrible that death was considered too merciful a punishment. Instead, they served humanity by providing biological samples. Their unique physiologies helped Earth's medical corps develop treatments for diseases across the galaxy. It was a fitting justice. Those who had caused so much suffering now forced to help end suffering. Olivia stopped at the control panel and checked the status of each pod. All green, all secure. "Good morning, Major Wright." The voice came from one of the few pods that allowed its occupant to remain conscious. Inside, a human woman with pale skin and black eyes watched them. Cynthia Boyd had once been a respected doctor. Then she had conducted experiments on unwilling subjects. Children, mostly. "No talking, Boyd," Olivia said without looking at her. "Is that any way to treat the person who helped you cure the Venus fever?" Boyd asked. Her voice was always calm, always reasonable. That made her more disturbing. "You didn't help. Your spinal fluid helped," Murphy said. "There's a difference." Boyd smiled. "And yet I'm still useful. More useful than I would be if executed. Remember that when your ambassador friend arrives." Olivia turned away from Boyd's pod. "How does she know about the ambassador?" Murphy frowned. "The staff must be talking where the prisoners can hear. I'll remind them about security protocols." They walked past the other pods. Most of the prisoners were in deep stasis, unaware of their surroundings. A few were semi-conscious, able to communicate when needed for research purposes. At the far end of the room, behind extra security barriers, were the 7 most dangerous prisoners. The ones even Murphy approached with caution. They came from different species, different worlds, but they shared one thing: they understood biology as a weapon better than anyone in the galaxy. The Harbinger 7, Olivia said softly. Sometimes I think we should just execute them and destroy all records of their research. And sometimes I agree with you, Murphy said. But then I remember how many lives we've saved using what we've learned from them. Olivia's communicator beeped. Major, the ambassador's shuttle is docking, Lieutenant Daniels said. On my way, Olivia replied. She turned to Murphy. Double-check all security protocols. I want everything perfect before the ambassador comes. Down here, of course, Murphy said. Don't worry so much, Olivia. This station has the best security in the system. Nothing can go wrong. As Olivia rode the elevator back up, she couldn't shake the feeling that Boyd's smile meant something. Like the prisoner knew something they didn't. She straightened her uniform and prepared to meet Ambassador Kelly Peterson. The diplomat would be shown the medical miracles of Sanctuary Station. She would be told how Earth's medical corps was healing. The wounds of a galaxy torn by war. What the ambassador wouldn't see was the fear that kept Olivia awake at night. The fear that someday, somehow, the monsters below would get loose, and if that happened, no one in the galaxy would be safe. Lieutenant Eric Daniels yawned as he watched the monitors in the communication center. Gamma shift was always quiet. Most of the station's crew was asleep. Only the medical staff treating urgent cases and the security team remained awake. Eric checked the time. 3 more hours until his shift ended. He took a sip of coffee and looked at the screens showing different parts of the station. All quiet. Ambassador Peterson had arrived 6 hours ago. She was now resting in the VIP quarters after a tour of the medical facilities. Tomorrow she would visit the detention level. Eric didn't like the idea of showing the war criminals to a politician. These creatures had killed millions. They deserved to be forgotten. Not treated like zoo animals for important visitors to gawk at. A small light began to flash on his console. Proximity alert. Something was moving near the station. Eric sat up straight and checked the readings. That's strange, he muttered. The sensors showed 3 small vessels approaching from Europa's shadow. No scheduled arrivals were expected for the next 2 days. Eric opened a communication channel. Unidentified vessels, this is Sanctuary Station. Please identify yourselves. And state your purpose. No response. He tried again. Unidentified vessels, you are entering restricted space. Identify yourselves immediately, or we will consider your approach hostile. Still no response. The vessels continued to approach. Fast. Eric's heart began to race. He reached for the alarm button, but before he could press it, a massive explosion rocked the station. The lights flickered. Emergency alarms began to wail. Security. Breach. Security breach. The computer's voice sounded too calm for the situation. Hull breach on levels 3, 5, and 7. Eric tried to call Major Wright, but the communication system was down. He grabbed his sidearm from the drawer. He had never fired it outside of training exercises. The door to the communication center slid open. Eric raised his gun, expecting to see crew members seeking safety. Instead, 3 figures in black stealth suits entered. Their faces were covered by helmets with dark visors. They carried weapons Eric had never seen before. Don't move, Eric said, trying to keep his voice steady. This is a restricted area. The intruders didn't speak. The one in front raised a weapon and fired. Eric felt a sharp pain in his chest. He looked down and saw a small dart. His vision began to blur. His legs gave way beneath him. As darkness closed in, Eric heard one of the intruders speak. Communications disabled. Proceed to objectives Alpha and Omega. Ambassador Kelly Peterson was thrown from her bed when the explosion hit. She landed hard on the floor of her quarters. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then the alarm started and she remembered. Sanctuary Station, She grabbed the emergency communicator that Major Wright had given her. Major Wright. What's happening? After a few seconds, Olivia's voice came through, tense and breathless. Ambassador, stay in your quarters. Lock the door. We're under attack. Who would attack a medical station? Kelly asked as she pulled on her clothes. I don't know, but they've breached multiple levels. I'm sending a security team to escort you to the emergency shuttles. What about the prisoners? Kelly asked. There was a pause. That's my next concern. Right out. Kelly went to the door and pressed the lock button. Then she moved a small table in front of it. It wouldn't stop anyone determined to get in, but it might slow them down. She looked around for something to use as a weapon. The room was designed for comfort, not defense. The best she could find was a heavy metal lamp. She unplugged it and held it like a club. Then she waited. In the medical bay, Dr. Alan Murphy worked frantically to evacuate patients. The explosion had damaged part of the wing, and the artificial gravity was fluctuating. Objects floated upward, then crashed down again without warning. Move the critical patients first, he told his staff. Get them to the shuttles. A young nurse named Sam helped an elderly patient into a wheelchair. Where are we taking them? Doctor, emergency shuttles on level 2, Murphy said. Once they're away from the station, the doors to the medical bay slid open. Murphy expected to see more of his staff or perhaps security personnel. Instead, 5 armed figures entered. Their weapons were aimed at the medical team. Nobody move, said the one in front. He removed his helmet, revealing a human face covered with burn scars on one side. I'm looking for Dr. Alan Murphy. Murphy stepped forward. I'm Murphy. Who are you? This is a medical facility. There are sick people here. The scarred man smiled without humor. You can call me Collector, and I know exactly what this facility is. He looked around at the frightened patients and staff. Everyone except Dr. Murphy, leave now. Take the patients. We have no quarrel with you. The medical staff looked at Murphy. He nodded, and they began to help the patients out through the side door. Once they were alone, the Collector moved closer. To Murphy, we know about Project Lazarus. Murphy shook his head. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no project by that name here. The Collector struck Murphy across the face. Don't lie to me. Give us the research data and the specimens, and we'll leave the survivors unharmed. Murphy touched his bleeding lip. I swear I've never heard of Project Lazarus. The emergency lights suddenly switched to red. A new alarm sounded, different from the others. Murphy recognized it immediately. The containment alarm from the detention. Level. The Collector smiled. It seems my colleagues have reached their objective. The stasis fields are failing. Murphy felt cold fear grip his stomach. Do you have any idea what you've done? Those prisoners are the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. Not all of them, the Collector said. Just 7 that we need. On the detention level, Major Olivia Wright fought her way through corridors filled with smoke. 2 security officers followed her. The others had been sent to protect the ambassador and help with evacuation. When they reached the detention level entrance, they found the heavy security door blown open. Inside, chaos reigned. Most of the cryopods were still intact, but 7 were open and empty. The pods that had held the Harbinger 7. Check the other pods, Olivia ordered. Make sure they're secure. As her officers moved to obey, Olivia heard a sound behind her. She turned, raising her weapon. Cynthia Boyd stood there, somehow free from her pod. Her pale skin seemed to glow in the red emergency lights. Hello, Major, Boyd said calmly, as if they were meeting for tea. It seems we have a problem. Olivia kept her gun aimed at Boyd's chest. Back in your pod. Now, Boyd smiled. I don't think so. Not with what's coming. She pointed past Olivia. He's free too. And he's not as reasonable as I am. Olivia turned and saw the massive scaled form of Vexcor, the draconian geneticist who had experimented on thousands of human colonists. His yellow eyes fixed on Olivia. Major Wright, he rasped, his forked tongue flicking between sharp teeth. How fortuitous. I've been dreaming of our reunion for 3 years. Olivia raised her weapon, but before either she or Vexcor could move, Boyd was suddenly between them. With movements too fast to follow, she drove something sharp into Vexcor's throat. The draconian fell, gurgling. Boyd turned to Olivia, holding a bloody surgical tool. "We don't have time for personal vendettas. The attackers have taken the Harbinger 7. Do you understand what that means?" Olivia kept her weapon raised. "Why should I trust you?" "Because right now," Boyd said, "I'm the only chance you have of stopping what's coming." Staff Sergeant Frank Rivera crouched behind an overturned medical cart in the command center. Sweat ran down his face as he reloaded his weapon. 5 other security officers huddled nearby, protecting 20 civilian staff members who had fled. There for safety, the attackers had tried 3 times to breach the command center. So far, Frank and his team had held them back. But they were running low on ammunition, and the station systems were failing around them. "Sergeant, communications are back online," said a young technician working at a damaged console. "Limited to station only, though. We can't call Earth." "Patch me through to Major Wright," Frank ordered. After a few seconds of static, Olivia's voice came through. "Right here." "Report, Sergeant. We're holding the command center, ma'am. Approximately 20 attackers on this level. They're well-trained." "And well-equipped. Any identification?" Olivia asked. "Negative. No insignia or markings. But their tactics suggest military training. Outer Rim forces, maybe." "Listen carefully, Sergeant. The situation has changed. The attackers have taken 7 high-value prisoners. But we have a bigger problem. The detention level has been compromised. Multiple prisoners are loose on the station." Frank felt his blood run cold. "All of them?" "Most of them," Olivia replied. "I am implementing emergency protocol Omega. Begin evacuation of all non-essential personnel immediately." "Yes, ma'am. What about the attackers?" "Let them go if they try to leave. Protecting our people is the priority now." The communication ended. Frank turned to his team. "You heard the Major. We're implementing Omega protocol. Johnson, Peters, escort these civilians to the emergency shuttles on level 2. What about you, Sergeant?" asked Officer Johnson. "The rest of us will hold this position as long as possible," Frank said. "Now move!" As the civilians were led away, Frank looked at his remaining officers. They were young and scared, but they stood firm. He was proud of them. "Whatever comes through that door next," Frank said, "we hold the line. For Earth." On the medical level, Dr. Murphy moved carefully through the damaged corridors. The collector and his men had left him alive but taken his access card. Now, Murphy was trying to reach the secure laboratory where he kept backup files of his research. The station shuddered around him. The attack had damaged critical systems. Life support was failing in some sections. Gravity fluctuated unpredictably. Murphy reached the laboratory door and entered his personal code. The door slid open with a hiss. Inside, everything was as he had left it. He went straight to a hidden panel in the wall and pressed his palm against it. A small compartment opened, revealing a data drive. As he grabbed the drive, he heard a noise behind him. He turned to find a figure watching him from the doorway. "Dr. Boyd," Murphy said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I see you've escaped." "Your pod." Cynthia Boyd stepped into the room. Her movements were smooth and predatory. "Don't worry, Doctor. If I wanted you dead, you wouldn't see me coming. What do you want?" Murphy asked. "The same thing you want. To stop the Harbinger 7 from leaving this station." She looked at the data drive in his hand. "Is that what the collector was looking for?" Murphy hesitated, then nodded. "I think so. Though I don't know why. It's just my backup research files. May I?" Boyd held out her hand. Murphy reluctantly gave her the drive. She examined it, then handed it back. "Do you know what Project Lazarus is?" she asked. Murphy shook his head. "The collector mentioned it. I've never heard of it." "It's not an official project," Boyd said. "It's a myth. A rumor among certain scientific circles. The resurrection of something ancient and terrible. What does that have to do with the Harbinger 7? Boyd's black eyes seemed to look through him. "Everything. Each of them possesses knowledge of a specific biological pathway. Combined, that knowledge could create weapons beyond imagination." "How do you know this?" Murphy asked. Because I was almost one of them, Boyd said. Before I was caught, I was working on similar research. That's why they kept me conscious in my pod to consult on certain problems. A voice came from the doorway. She's telling the truth. Major Olivia Wright stood there, her weapon lowered but ready. She looked at Boyd with distrust, then at Murphy. We have a situation, Doctor. The station is lost. We need to evacuate. We can't just leave, Murphy protested. Not with the Harbinger 7 in enemy hands. We won't, Olivia said grimly. That's why I've made a decision. She looked at Boyd. I'm forming a team to go after them. And I need people who understand what we're dealing with. You're recruiting prisoners? Murphy asked, shocked. Only those with skills we need, Olivia replied. And they'll be fitted with neural inhibitors. One wrong move and they drop. Boyd smiled. How desperate you must be, Major, to come to us. For help. Will you help or not? Olivia asked bluntly. Of course, Boyd said. As I told you before, I have no desire to see the galaxy burn. Murphy looked between them. This is insane. These are war criminals. And right now, there are only hope of stopping an even greater crime, Olivia said. She turned to leave. We're gathering at Shuttle Bay 4 in 30 minutes. Bring any research data that might help us track the Harbinger 7. After she left, Murphy looked at Boyd. Can I trust you? No, Boyd said simply. But you can trust? That I want to survive. And if the Collector succeeds with Project Lazarus, none of us will. In Shuttle Bay 4, Olivia waited as her unusual team assembled. Besides Boyd, she had recruited 4 other prisoners who had escaped during the attack. Each had been chosen for specific skills or knowledge. XX, a Centauran demolitions expert, with 4 arms, each capable of working independently. Paul Weber, a former Earth Fleet intelligence officer convicted of treason, who knew the criminal networks of the Outer Rim better than anyone. Nim, a Proxima shapeshifter who could mimic any humanoid form almost perfectly, and the strangest of them all, a being known only as the Surgeon. No one knew its species or origin. It never spoke. Its hands had too many fingers, all impossibly long and thin. It had been imprisoned for performing unauthorized modifications on living beings, enhancing them in ways that violated all known ethical boundaries. Each prisoner now wore a collar containing a neural inhibitor. One command from Olivia, and they would be paralyzed instantly. Dr. Murphy arrived last, carrying a small case containing his research files and equipment. Is the ambassador safe? He asked Olivia. She nodded. Left on the first evacuation shuttle. Earth Defense Command has been notified of the situation. They're sending ships, but they won't arrive for at least 12 hours. But by then, the Collector. And the Harbinger 7 will be long gone, Boyd said. That's why we're going after them now, Olivia replied. She looked at her unlikely team. I won't lie to you. This mission is unauthorized and probably suicidal. But if we don't stop the Collector, billions of lives could be at risk. Weber, the former intelligence officer, spoke up. What's in it for us if we succeed? Reduced sentences, Olivia said. And you get to live in a galaxy that isn't being decimated by biological weapons. Good enough for me, Cax said, his forearms flexing. Olivia turned to Murphy. We'll take the Mercy's Reach. It's a medical transport vessel, not a warship, but it has advanced laboratories you can use. And our first destination? Murphy asked. Mars, Boyd answered before Olivia could speak. The Collector will need additional equipment for Project Lazarus. The black market medical facilities in Olympus City are the only place he can get it. Without alerting authorities, Olivia looked at her sharply. How do you know that? Boyd smiled. Because that's where I would go. As they boarded the Mercy's Reach, Murphy moved close to Olivia. Are you sure about this? Trusting these criminals? Olivia watched as the prisoners were secured in the ship's holding area. No, but I'm sure about what happens if we do nothing. The ship's engines hummed to life. Through the viewport they could see Sanctuary Station, parts of it dark and damaged, growing smaller as they pulled away. Behind them, the war criminals they had guarded for years. Ahead of them, the war criminals they now followed. And somewhere In between, Olivia knew the line between justice and necessity had become dangerously blurred. The Mercy's Reach moved silently through space toward Mars. Inside the ship, Olivia sat in the captain's chair on the small bridge. The ship wasn't made for combat. It was designed to transport medical supplies and injured people. But it was fast and had good stealth systems. Olivia checked the communication panel again. Still nothing from Earth Defense Command. She had sent multiple messages explaining the situation but received no response. She wasn't surprised. The attack on Sanctuary Station would have thrown Earth's military into chaos. The door to the bridge slid open. Dr. Murphy entered, looking tired but determined. "How are our guests?" Olivia asked. "Secure," Murphy said. He sat in the chair next to her. "Boyd is helping me analyze the data from the research files. She's surprisingly cooperative." "Don't trust her," Olivia warned. "She killed people for her research. Children." "I know what she did," Murphy said quietly. "But she understands. The Harbinger 7 better than anyone else. We need her." Olivia nodded reluctantly. "What have you learned?" "The Collector wasn't just after any prisoners. He specifically wanted those 7. Each one has knowledge of a different biological system. Together they could create something terrible." "What exactly?" Olivia asked. Murphy hesitated. "Boyd calls it the Plague Father. An ancient pathogen that nearly wiped out all sentient life in the galaxy once before. Most records of it were destroyed, but fragments of knowledge survived. And Project Lazarus is about bringing this pathogen back?" Olivia felt cold at the thought. "Yes, Boyd thinks the Collector plans to resurrect it, then use it as a weapon. Control who lives and who dies across entire star systems." Olivia shook her head. "Why would anyone want that power?" "People who think they know better than everyone else," Murphy said. "People who believe the only way to save humanity is to control it completely." The ship's navigation system beeped. Mars appeared on the view screen, a red sphere growing larger as they approached. "We'll reach Olympus City in 2 hours," Olivia said. "Get some rest. You'll need it." After Murphy left, Olivia remained on the bridge alone. She touched the gun at her hip, wondering if she would have to use it soon. And if she did, would it be against the Collector's people or against her own team of criminals? In the ship's laboratory, Boyd watched as the strange being known as the Surgeon examined the data on Murphy's drive. Its long, thin fingers moved across the screen with unnatural grace. "You can speak," Boyd said suddenly. "I know you can." "Why the silence?" The Surgeon didn't look at her. It continued working, its face hidden by a hood. "Fine," Boyd said. "Keep your secrets, but I know what you are. You're not an ordinary criminal like the rest of us. You're something else entirely." The Surgeon paused for a moment, then resumed its work. "I've read the ancient texts," Boyd continued, "about the species that came before us, the ones who seeded the galaxy with life, the ones who created the Plague Father as a way to reset their experiment when it went wrong." The Surgeon's fingers stopped moving. Slowly it turned to face her. For the first time, Boyd felt a flicker of fear. The being had no eyes that she could see within the shadow of its hood. "Just darkness. I'm right, aren't I?" Boyd whispered. "You're one of them, a precursor?" The Surgeon turned back to the screen without responding. Boyd smiled to herself. She had her answer. In another part of the ship, Paul Weber sat with Cax and Nim in the holding area. They wore their neural inhibitor collars like jewelry they couldn't remove. "This is a suicide mission," Weber said quietly. "You know that, right?" Cax shrugged with all 4 arms. "Better than rotting in a cryopod. For another 20 years. Nim, the shapeshifter, said nothing. Its form kept shifting slightly, never settling on one appearance for long, a nervous habit. "If we survive this," Weber continued, "we should have a backup plan. A way to escape once the mission is complete. The Major will never let that happen." Cax said. Weber smiled. "The Major might not have a choice." Nim finally spoke, its voice changing pitch with each word. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we keep our options open," Weber said. "Do the job, stop the Collector, save the galaxy. But be ready to disappear when it's over. Cax leaned forward. I'm listening. Olivia watched them on the security monitor. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but she could guess. They were planning something. Of course they were. They were criminals, not heroes. She switched to another camera view. Murphy was in his quarters, sleeping fitfully. The surgeon and Boyd were in the lab, working on the data. Everything seemed under control, but Olivia knew better. This fragile alliance could fall apart at any moment, the ship's computer announced. Their approach to Mars, Olivia returned to the captain's chair and prepared for landing. All personnel, prepare for atmospheric entry, she said over the ship's comm system. We'll dock at Olympus City under a medical emergency authorization. Remember your roles. Stay focused on the mission. The Mercy's reach descended toward the red planet. From space, Olympus City looked like a silver spiderweb sprawled across the base of Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. The city was a maze of domes and tunnels, home to millions of people. And somewhere in that maze, the Collector and his prisoners were preparing for the next phase of Project Lazarus. The ship landed at a small medical dock on the city's outskirts. Olivia gathered her team in the cargo bay. Weber, you know this place. Where would someone go to get advanced biological equipment without questions? Weber thought for a moment. The Red Zone. It's a section of the city where the authorities don't go. Black market everything. Medical tech, weapons, drugs. How do we get there? Murphy asked. Not easily, Weber replied. And not looking like this, he gestured to their uniforms. Olivia nodded. Nim, this is where you come in. You'll go first, scout the area. Find any sign of the Collector or the Harbinger 7. The shapeshifter nodded, its features already beginning to change, shifting to match the appearance of a typical Martian dock worker. The rest of us will follow in groups, Olivia continued. Murphy and I will pose as medical researchers. Boyd. And the surgeon will be our assistants. Weber and Cax will go separately using Weber's old contacts. And if we find the Collector? Boyd asked. We observe only, Olivia said firmly. We need to know exactly what he's planning before we move. Against him, no one acts alone, understood? They all nodded, though Olivia didn't believe for a second that they would all follow orders. Especially Boyd, who watched her with those unnervingly black eyes as they prepared to leave the ship. Murphy pulled Olivia aside. I've been studying the data more carefully, he said in a low voice. I think I know what Project Lazarus really is. It's not just about creating a biological weapon. It's about resurrection in the most literal sense. What do you mean? Olivia asked. The Plague Father wasn't just a pathogen, Murphy explained. According to ancient texts, it was a semi-sentient entity, a living weapon created by precursor species to cleanse worlds that had developed in ways they didn't approve of. You're saying it was intelligent, like a person? More like a god, Murphy said. And the Collector wants to bring it back, then control it somehow. Use it to reshape the galaxy according to his vision. Olivia looked at her mismatched team as they prepared to enter the city. A group of killers and monsters, now the only hope of stopping an even greater monster from being unleashed. Let's move, she said, and stay alert. Mars is dangerous enough without ancient gods and mad scientists in the mix. They stepped out of the ship into the dusty red atmosphere of Olympus City, the first step in a hunt that would take them to the darkest corners of the planet and eventually to a confrontation that would determine the fate of every living being in the galaxy. 3 days after arriving on Mars, they found what they were looking for. Nim returned to their hidden base in the abandoned maintenance tunnels beneath Olympus City with important news. I found them, the shapeshifter said, its form settling into its neutral state. The Collector and the Harbinger 7 are on an old terraforming platform in Saturn's rings. They left Mars yesterday on a private transport. Olivia looked at Weber. Why Saturn? There's nothing out there. Isolation, Weber replied. No civilian populations nearby. Perfect place to test a weapon. Boyd, who had been listening from the corner, stepped forward. It's not just about isolation. Saturn's rings contain rare elements. The Collector needs them to complete the resurrection machine. How do you know about this machine? Olivia asked suspiciously. Because I helped design. Parts of it, Boyd admitted. Before I was caught. I never built it, but the theory was sound. A device that could reconstruct extinct biological entities from fragmented genetic memories. Dr. Murphy looked pale. And now the collector has all 7 fragments. The complete knowledge needed to resurrect the Plague Father. We need to move fast, Olivia said. How long until the machine is operational? If they have all the components, less than 24 hours, Boyd said. Olivia made a quick decision. We leave for Saturn immediately. She looked at her team. In the 3 days on Mars, they had changed. Weber walked with a limp after a confrontation in the red zone. Cax had lost one of his 4 arms in the same fight. The surgeon remained as silent as ever, but seemed more alert, more present. As for Boyd, she had proven her value again and again, her knowledge of biology and the black market saving them more than once. But Olivia still didn't trust her. Couldn't trust her. Murphy touched Olivia's arm. I've received a message from Earth Defense Command. They've ordered us to return immediately. They're sending a strike team to Saturn instead. They'll never get there in time, Olivia said. And they don't understand what they're dealing with. We continue as planned. That's disobeying a direct order, Murphy warned. It wouldn't be the first time, Olivia replied. 6 hours later, the Mercy's reach approached the Saturn system. The great ringed planet filled the view screen, beautiful and terrifying. Somewhere among the countless ice particles and rocks that formed the rings, the collector was preparing to unleash an ancient horror. Olivia gathered her team one last time. We've tracked the collector to an abandoned terraforming platform designated TR7. It's hidden in the F-ring. Our plan is simple. We board the platform, stop the resurrection process, and capture the collector and the Harbinger 7. Simple. Doesn't mean easy, Weber muttered. The platform will be heavily guarded, Olivia continued. We'll need to split into 2 teams. Murphy, Boyd, and the surgeon will locate and disable the resurrection machine. Weber, Cax, Nim, and I will deal with the collector and his men. What about the Harbinger 7? Boyd asked. If possible, we return them to stasis, Olivia said. If not, ... She let the sentence hang unfinished. They all understood. Some threats were too great to be allowed to exist. The Mercy's reach docked with the terraforming platform without being detected. Their entry was silent and swift. The platform was huge, designed to house hundreds of workers, but now it felt empty and dead. Their footsteps echoed on metal floors as they moved through dim corridors. They encountered the first guards at a junction. Weber took them down without a sound, using skills from his days as an intelligence officer. Cax looked impressed. The team split up as planned. Olivia led her group toward the command center, where they expected to find the collector. Murphy's team headed for the laboratory level. In the laboratory, Murphy, Boyd, and the surgeon found something beyond their worst fears. A massive machine dominated the central chamber. It hummed with power. At its center, suspended in a glowing field, was a half-formed shape that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Neither solid nor liquid, neither alive nor dead, but something in between. The Harbinger 7 were connected to the machine by tubes and wires, their bodies suspended in transparent chambers. They appeared unconscious, but their brains were active, feeding knowledge into the resurrection process. We're too late, Murphy whispered. It's already begun. Boyd moved to a control panel. We can still stop it. The process isn't complete. The surgeon stepped forward, standing before the shifting form in the center of the machine. For the first time it spoke. Its voice seemed to bypass their ears and speak directly to their minds. I have waited centuries for this moment, it said, to end what my people began. In the command center, Olivia and her team found the collector. He stood before a bank of screens, watching the process in the laboratory. When they burst in, weapons ready, he seemed unsurprised. Major Wright, he said calmly. I wondered when you would arrive. Step away from the controls, Olivia ordered. Shut down the machine, the collector smiled. You don't understand what's happening here. What I'm creating isn't a weapon, it's salvation. You're trying to resurrect an ancient pathogen that nearly wiped out all life in the galaxy, Olivia said. That's not salvation. That's genocide. Control, the collector corrected. The power to decide who lives and who dies. To guide evolution itself. As they spoke, the platform shuddered. Alarms began to sound. What's happening? Weber asked. The collector looked at his screens. His face showed shock for the first time. Someone is sabotaging the process. The containment fields are failing. In the laboratory, Boyd watched as the surgeon placed its hands on the machine. Energy crackled around its long fingers. The shifting form in the center began to pulse rapidly. What are you doing? Boyd demanded. What I was sent to do, the surgeon replied, to ensure that some mistakes remain buried. Murphy understood suddenly. You're not trying to stop the resurrection. You're making sure it happens incorrectly. Creating a flawed version that can't survive. Yes, the surgeon said. My people created the Plague Father as a tool of judgment. We were wrong. Such power should not exist. The machine began to overload. Sparks flew from control panels. The Harbinger 7 convulsed in their chambers. Boyd grabbed Murphy's arm. We need to leave. Now, this whole platform is going to tear itself apart. Back in the command center, the collector watched his dream collapse. With a cry of rage, he lunged at Olivia. They fought while the platform broke apart around them. Weber and the others engaged the collector's remaining men. Olivia finally overpowered the collector, pinning him against a console. It's over, she said. It will never be over, he replied. The knowledge still exists. Someone else will try again. Not if we destroy all records of it, Olivia said. The collector laughed. You can't destroy knowledge, Major. You can only hope to control who has access to it. A massive explosion rocked the platform. The floor beneath them began to tilt. Olivia looked at her team. Fall back to the ship, now! They fought their way back through collapsing corridors. Murphy and Boyd met them at a junction. The surgeon was not with them. Where is it? Olivia asked. It stayed behind, Boyd said, to finish what it started. They reached the Mercy's Reach just as the platform began to break apart completely. As they pulled away, they watched through the view screen as the terraforming platform collapsed into Saturn's rings, becoming just more debris orbiting the giant. Planet. Olivia sat heavily in the captain's chair. The Harbinger 7? Gone, Murphy said. Along with the collector and the resurrection machine. And the surgeon? Murphy shook his head. It chose to remain. I think it had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Boyd looked out at the rings of Saturn. Some crimes transcend punishment, she said softly. Some redemptions require sacrifice. Weber approached Olivia. What happens now, Major? To us? Olivia looked at the criminals who had become her team, who had helped save the galaxy from a threat most people would never know existed. Now we go home, she said, and I keep my promise. Reduce sentences for all of you, and the truth about what happened here. Murphy asked. Will be classified, Olivia said. Too dangerous for people to know how close we came to extinction. Earth's medical corps will be rebuilt with new safeguards and oversight. The knowledge the Harbinger 7 possessed will be secured, studied only under the strictest protocols. As the Mercy's Reach turned toward Earth, Olivia thought about the fine line between justice and necessity, between prisoner and ally. The war criminals had been set loose, and in the end, they had helped save countless lives. Not out of nobility, perhaps, but out of a shared desire to survive. Boyd joined her on the bridge. Do you think it's really over? She asked. No, Olivia said honestly. But today at least life won.